I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first we'll establish a quorum, so Adams, Atkinson, Coe, and McGuire and Eggins are all here, so we do have a quorum. And first item is public comments on items not on the agenda, which I believe this is.
Yes.
Okay.
Evening, commissioners. My name is Jane Packard, and I am a volunteer at the Los Altos History Museum, chair of the Orchard Commons Committee, which advises the executive director of the museum. And so in the interest of collaboration with the Educational Committee, I'd like to inform you of an exciting new opportunity to enhance the public understanding of the historical landmark that is the Los Altos Heritage Orchard. So we have received a pre-proposal for an Eagle Scout project titled Upgrading Existing Signposts in the Heritage Orchard. A handout is available for your consideration. So briefly, the project would be, it would extend an existing self-guided tour from the courtyard of the museum out to 4 sites in the Heritage Orchard. And these sites are where there are existing signposts besides the paths, and they mark where the irrigation pipes go under the paths. So the signposts are in the historical style of the street signs that were initially placed throughout Los Altos. So this project will have 2 components. The physical component would be upgrades to the signposts themselves, so 8 posts at 4 sites. The educational component would be creating stories at each of the 4 sites, and each site, a signpost, will help visitors link to an app on their phone that provides those stories for them. So the upgrades to the signposts will change the lettering to provide directions to buildings within the civic center, thereby restoring the original directional function of signposts. And the signposts would also link visitors then to the sites on the guided tour map. The upgrades to the educational tour will be designed to engage kids who have attended the school field trips to the museum. So we want to invite the 3rd and 4th grade kids to return to the museum in the orchard with their families for after-school activities. So the bottom line, there would be no changes to the historical appearance of the orchard. And Sean has informed me that we will pass this through Parks and Recreation, and then it would possibly return to you. But in the meantime, if anybody has any comments or suggestions, I would please direct them to me. You have my email on the briefing document there. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. This one up, we can't discuss this at this point, or
For items not on the agenda, generally there's no discussion.
Okay.
Because it's managed by, public facilities are generally managed by Park and Recreation, then she would then reach out to Park and Recreation. They would process it, and then because it's an orchard site, it would likely then come through the commission. Likely.
okay. Great, thank you. Okay, then we are off to okay, historical commission minutes. And then, are there any comments by, no, first we ask for public comments on the agenda,
Yes,
in the full agenda?
yes, you would ask if there are any public comments on the agenda, open up public comments, ask if there are any comments, and let me see if there's anybody. Members of the public can't speak on items, but we do have 2 parties watching the meeting.
Okay.
Councilmember Dagley and then the historian.
Does anyone have public comment on the minutes from last time? Okay, no, I'll close that part of the session. Does the commission have any comments on the minutes of last meeting? No? No? Okay, good. So I'll hear a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
So do I have a second? Second. Second? And shall we do a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner McGuire Negus,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams, right? Commissioner Atkinson.
Aye.
Oh, and Commissioner, Chair Cow. I apologize.
Aye. Okay, so the motion passes. Great. Okay, so next we come to the public hearing session. And we have two that are very entwined. And the first part will be a presentation by
Staff.
by staff, okay? And then are you gonna combine these two, or when you present, are you going?
Handled independently, Sean?
Yeah, so each of the items are independent, because one is an advisory review for you to recommend to staff. And then the Mills Act is an advisory review for you with a recommendation to council. So they're on two different
Two
paths.
cuts, okay. Okay. Then, yes,
Let me share. Cooperate. Okay. I'm sorry, it keeps moving. Good evening, commissioners. The item before you tonight is a historic advisory review permit for a property at 236 Eleanor. The proposed project includes modifications to the front or to the elevation, removing a second-story balcony, returning the roof form to its original form, replacing and modifying the location of two windows, and then modifying a terrace. The slide before you is the subject site located on Eleanor Avenue between Hawthorne and Hawthorne. These are photographs of the site if the commissioners have not come out to visit. Sorry, this is been difficult for some reason. The two slides before you provides the elevation drawings of the east elevation. The upper elevation is the existing conditions, which shows a second-story balcony on the structure. The lower elevation is what's proposed with you today. It is the removal of the 1990s era balcony that was added. That's not historic in nature. And its proposal to remove that balcony and return the original roof form back to its original style, so it'll be more consistent with the original architecture of the building. Back. The second one, the upper slide shows the existing site, no windows on the second floor along the west elevation. And then it is proposing the addition of a new window on the west elevation of the second story. The north elevation, the upper elevation, shows the existing elevation it is today, or as it will be. I should clarify that we can try to get it. Let me check that about this. Having a real problem.
Sounds like it's going to do a PowerPoint on without you powering it.
I know. Let me try to get it back. Share. So to clarify to the commission, so this is before the commission in 2023. In 2023, there was a proposal for an addition, which includes this area back here. This was previously approved by the commission. So it's great because it reflects an addition previously approved, and this is the existing structure. The applicant isn't coming forward for any approval of this element. What they're proposing is a modification to add a window, to modify the window location here and change the window style.
Yeah, just want to run like a,
Get it out of it.
yeah.
What the applicant is proposing on the elevation is a modification to the terrace of the structure. This terrace was previously approved in 2023. The proposal is to modify the column type, and the proposal is to modify the railing system, which previously was an open railing system, and the proposal is to modify it to a solid stucco finish. This overall terrace, the size, the location was previously approved by the commission. They're requesting your approval of these alterations to the original design that was approved in 2023. And so, in the Secretary of the Interior standards, there are a series of standards that are provided to you in the staff report. Staff has taken the Secretary of the Interior's report that's provided to you, condensed that and provided that to you in a response from the commission, which takes the historian's perspective and then answers those questions for you. Staff does believe that it meets the Secretary of the Interior standards, standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through to 9. Staff does believe it's consistent with findings required for making an approval and advisory review. And therefore, staff's provided to you a set of findings on page 7 and 8 of the report. Staff requests your review and approval of this modification. To provide a little history on this site, after the approval in 2023 with the Historical Commission, it was approved as a design review application also by staff or by the zoning administrator, and then they had submitted a building permit application. This site is currently under construction. Part of the reason why we have a special meeting is it's an opened up site. The building has had portions of the building removed. We're trying to move the site forward. And so we're hoping that you'll consider and recommend approval for this project. And staff, the applicant is here to provide the presentation.
My name's Walter Chapman. I'm the designer for this project. I'm also a previous historical commissioner 12 years ago. I started and was on the commission for 8 years. So in designing remodels to historical homes, I'm well aware of the requirements, Secretary of Standard requirements. What happened on this particular project, though, is when proceeding to the Mills Act level, we brought in a historian to give it a higher level of review for Mills Act approval. And in that process, it was determined that the original front porch, which was added in the 90s, would best to be removed in order to preserve or to return the house to its original style and architecture. And so the request that led to the removal, us coming back for the removal of the porch. At the same time, the historian recommended a design change to the side terrace. We originally, when presenting it to the commission, we altered this style. We didn't want to replicate too closely the original front porch because it can create confusion for the general public on what's historical and not historical. But the historian also felt that it would be better to more complement the original front porch than to have such a stark variation. And that is why we've resubmitted the side porch as well. So this started with the removal of a non-historical porch, then reviewing the side terrace to make it more compatible. During the time of construction, a upstairs bathroom was reconfigured. And it made sense we already had a larger window on the side, it's called the front yard on this application. But that's because the orientation of the home. So instead of one larger window on that bathroom, we are splitting it to be two smaller windows. The distance to property lines far exceeds any of the required setbacks, doesn't really increase any impact on neighbors because we already had a bathroom in that location. But we felt it better suited the new floor plan that we developed internally. So that is the change for the window request. So those are the three items that are before the historical commission tonight as far as the approval this evening for this part of the application. The second one, I'm gonna leave up to the historian if she has anything to say, because I'm not really as well versed on Mills Act requirements since I'm working with architectural design. Do you have any questions on here? So is the property owner.
Great. It's quite a project. I wanted to clarify in the writing, it talks about the design of a new roof. And so there is going to be a new roof on the patio, right?
The front porch, there's a gable and there's a balcony there. So when the balcony is removed, we have to reconstruct the roof that
Okay.
used to be there.
Okay.
And that is the modification of the roof, is basically turning it to its original form.
Okay.
Because once the balcony is removed, we have to reconstruct that portion.
So the porch and the terrace are two different things,
Two different items, yeah.
right? No,
Are the balcony and porch
The
same?
balcony is over the front porch. And we found the
You're
balcony.
removing
And
both
so we're moving the
the
balcony.
balcony, okay.
And in doing that, because it came out of a second floor bedroom, we have to redo the roof there, but it'll look exactly like it would at the
Porch not been built.
in the original style.
So on the terrace, then the belly band trim, that's gonna get added to
Yes.
the roof of the
To
terrace.
replicate the band that's on the house currently. The other thing that happens is we had an open railing on that terrace. And the original house had a low plaster wall, stucco wall, like a seat wall.
Mhm.
And so we are mimicking that type of seat wall, which brings down, it opens up the visibility rather than a 42-inch railing. It's gonna be a lower seat wall around the terrace.
I just wanted to be sure I understand, the porch is on the north side, is that right, which is the front?
The,
two porches though.
well, one's a terrace, there's a terrace on one side, a porch on another side, and a porch on the third side. So we have porches basically on all three sides of the house. Sean, for clarification, because the orientation of the site, the front door isn't facing the front elevation, it's facing, I believe, south. Or is let's see what we have here, east. All right, so the east elevation.
So that's the front house, front door. This is the porch, the balcony that we would remove. And so we're actually, this will just be fixed.
But because of the orientation of the property and the way zoning setbacks work, this is actually referred to as the left side. Because of the shape of the property, which gets everyone confused. So instead of saying front, left, right, or rear, we refer to it as the east and
East west. Yeah,
so
east.
the north side is what's technically the front setback.
The front door is on the south, did you say?
It's on the east.
Oh, it's on the east. Okay, so closer to Eleanor, right?
Facing Eleanor, because that used to be all one property at one time. It was subdivided. The original front door used to face Eleanor and still does, but you can't see it now from the street because it was subdivided.
So for zoning purposes, and this is more for designer view, the narrowest portion of the property is the front. It's usually if the front is parallel to the street, but if the overall depth of the lot is greater than 100, then you can flip the orientation. So then this becomes the front, this becomes an interior side, this becomes the side, and this is a rear. That's why we have deeper front setbacks here and then a rear setback there. It's purely a zoning definition of what is a front. Which is probably not clear because we don't really talk about that with the commission, but it probably creates confusion in orientations.
So my front door is here on the east side. And so I have a driveway that you go up to the driveway, like, and it's a flag lot, so.
And we could further complicate it by explaining how it's done on corner lots and flag lots and standard lots. But this is all meets the zoning regulations.
So this is the front. This is the porch. It's going to be removed here. And that's the true front door entry. The terrace is over here. And then there's going to be a window replacement up on the second story here and a new window on the back side. Which is an interior side, a front, an exterior side and a rear. It's confusing, but that's consistent with the zoning code and how we define front, sides and rear.
Yeah, and all of that was reviewed in the by staff as well as the historical commission when it was originally approved. So what we're really just trying to focus on right now is removing a non-historical balcony, converting that roof back to match the historical structure, altering the previously approved terrace to more replicate the architectural style of the original house, and then the alteration of the window locations in an up-floor bathroom. So that's trying to keep it, that's the three high points, I guess what we're trying to.
Right. Ed, did you have any questions?
No question.
You okay? Okay. Let me just double check my notes here.
Did you want to take public comment or?
Yes, I will. I was just gonna see if I needed any more clarification. So I'd like to open it for public comments.
No one present for public comment, and we can't take public comment
We can't say.
from Zoom.
So I'll close public comment. And so the commission before it is our job. The commission, and I'll read this just for benefit of all of us, the commission will need to find that the project is consistent with the provisions of the historic preservation ordinance and does not adversely affect the physical integrity or the historic significance of the property. Once the commission provides a recommendation, the project will be reviewed by the Development Services Director. Anyone have discussion that they'd like to?
So we're basically talking about the removal of a porch.
Removal of a porch.
Removal of the balcony.
A balcony over the porch.
Over the, yes, the balcony.
Yes,
This stuff.
that's the biggest piece that's happening.
And then the change in the wall around the court, right?
Around the terrace
wall,
point, yeah.
More like the original,
That's right.
and then the movement of the windows.
Yeah, and the porch and the walls, were all, brought to us by the historian as well. So to make it more, so it really does, qualify.
I like the fact that using the existing windows.
Yeah, we're trying to preserve as much of the structure and the windows as possible. And so that with the removal of the balcony, which was a total surprise to us, we're excited to get the house back to what it was originally.
So in the plan, you can see in the original approved in 2023, there was a railing system, there's a single column. And in the proposal, They're now changing it to 2 columns, which is consistent with the overall style of the original porch. And then they're enclosing this system here. So that's the overall modification, as you can see, from what's proposed today to what was originally approved in 2023. This is new. That's under construction or will be under construction. And then their proposal is to remove this balcony face, remove these doors, rebuild it back to its original form, and then add windows instead of doors.
We're gonna keep the 2 windows that are there, actually.
Keep the 2 windows and then they'll repair and replace that back to its original form. And then on the opposite side will be the window replacements, which are on the right side.
Any other discussion that we need? Are we ready to vote? So I'll open for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the plans as described.
I'll take a second.
I will second.
If in the motion, if you look on the staff report, if you could make a motion, consistent with what's listed there for the record. Keep in mind.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So I move that we recommend approval of the historic advisory review based on the findings. And we find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review.
You have a second? Have you second?
I second
You
the
second?
motion.
Okay. Should we do a roll call?
Commissioner Adams,
Yay.
Commissioner McGuire Negus, Commissioner Atkinson.
Aye.
Commissioner Cook.
So we go on to the second item, which is the request to execute a Mills Act agreement. Would you like to do a presentation on that?
I will try. I think I fixed my previous problems. That'll work correctly. Six. Okay, good evening, commissioners. Again, my name is Sean Gagos, Senior Planner with Planning Division. The project before you tonight is a request for the commission to recommend that City Council authorize the city manager to execute a historic preservation agreement for 236 Eleanor Avenue. So in regards to a Mills Act is a tax incentive program that is authorized under state law. It does, the intention is to promote and support the rehabilitation of historic structures through a tax reduction. Generally, this tax reduction is for a reduction of an overall 46% of the overall tax value. The tax assessment is based on the rental value of the property times a cap rate that's established by the county assessor's office, and that's what results in the reduction. The proposal tonight for recommendation would, if you authorize, the council authorized, would allow the owner to sign a Mills Act agreement or historic preservation agreement with the city that would specify specific terms and conditions of that contract, which would require over a 10-year period, maintenance of the property equal generally to the savings that they're receiving under the property taxes. Their agreement would be an exchange, tax savings for rehabilitation. In this particular situation, the applicant is doing a lot of the work at the front end, and so they are providing kind of an amateurized approach in regards to their overall costs. And so they provided within this historic preservation agreement their projected costs yearly, and then the overall cost over a 10-year period. And that's part of, I think, Appendix P of the Historic Preservation Agreement. So the house, as you're aware, is built in 1914. It's a Craftsman style home. It was placed on the inventory in 1997. We did provide to you the primary historical record, which is the DPR forms from 2012, which are Department of Parks and Recreation forms 523A and B. These forms are the standard forms that you'll see in your packets. These are the standard forms established by the state of California that we use to kind of record historic properties. It's again, a two-story Craftsman house. It has square plan, side gable roof with decorative wood knee braces, exposed rafter tails. Although it's undergone several iterations and modifications to the structure, staff does still believe it retains the key elements of a Craftsman design, and it continues to be a historic structure, especially with the applicant continuing to comply with Secretary of the Interior standards. It would retain its original designation as a historic resource. This provides the existing site, which includes proposed modifications. The applicant has received approval from the Historical Commission in 2023, and now this year in 2024. This provides photographs from the side and the front, and then also from on the right side is the front of the home for zoning purposes. And then the left side is the rear of the home with the front porch of the home on the side. In the schedule of improvements in the historic preservation agreement, the applicant has provided a schedule of improvements. This is the annual amortized cost over the life of each of these items. And then this is the overall cost over a 10-year period. Now, most of this work's going to be done in the next couple of years, or over the next year or so. So he's going to spend about this much. And so we're going to amortize that over the life of it. So this could potentially be, 30 years for foundations or 50 years for foundations and other timelines. So this is part of your packet tonight. Now, staff does recommend that the Historical Commission recommend to the City Council request to the city manager to execute a Mills Act agreement, although we call it a historic preservation agreement in the report to be consistent, for the property owners at 236 Eleanor. If the commission recommends approval, then in January, it'll go to council. Council doesn't allow items to be scheduled on their agenda in December. And so we're not able to go until January. So if it is approved tonight, then one of the commissioners will need to attend that meeting, and I'll make sure to advise each commissioner of that. That concludes staff's presentation. Unless there are any questions.
And to open for public comment
Or applicant presentation.
or applicant presentation.
The only, because it's Mills Act related, I would have to defer to the historian. And I don't think there's any comments further than what Sean has brought up already for discussion.
All in the report.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on to public comment. Seeing none, we'll close that. Staff. Do we have any questions, comments, discussion?
I don't quite understand how much is being done now and how much is going to be done in the future.
Well, there's a lot of new construction
Right.
going on, and we're also discovering a lot of stuff in the old construction as we're opening up walls. So we're fixing stuff now and repairing as we would. But since things like the wood windows are old and they're going to require maintenance over the next 10 years, I need to spend money to maintain all of our wooden windows and all of the historic pieces of property in that.
Well, my question is basically of the $500,000 that we see you're being reimbursed for, how much are you spending now as opposed to over the future?
I'm spending most of that now.
Most of it.
Yeah.
The building itself has had a lot of deferred maintenance, put it that way. Over the last 15, 20 years, very little has been done to maintain and protect it. So there's a lot of upgrading that needs to be done to bring it back to a healthy state. So it's
Termite
it's
damage.
being front loaded.
Well, in one sense, from protecting the public's money, the fact that you were absolutely committed to spending this money now, we don't have to worry about, are you gonna fulfill the terms of the
That's
mill
right.
tax?
You have done it.
Yeah, I'm doing that, and, you know, I intend to, you know, keep up.
That's my observation.
Yes, for sure.
So Mills Act was never applied for this property with previous owners?
No,
No.
very few owners have received no.
Have received what?
I think only 16 properties have received the Mills Act and of all the historic properties.
Think of, you know, in my case, the owners had been there for a long time, so their taxes were probably not.
It's a combination of that. If someone's had the house a long time, their property taxes were based on when they purchased it, so it was less of a burden. But also, a lot of these houses that have been applying for the Mills Act are people who've come in and have done restoration work and took a big hit having to do that restoration work and said, my gosh, how can I do this without some relief? So that's where you'll see that more often as homes are restored. That need is more prevalent, whereas in the past, it wasn't as urgent, so to speak, to restore the house or maintain it.
And you're comfortable with the 5-year reporting schedule and
Oh, yeah.
to keep track of all that? Seems like you've done a pretty good job at it, or a very good job at it.
Yeah, Yeah, I will,
Stretching it
absolutely.
out. Okay. Any other?
I don't think I have any other questions. I appreciate how complete your report has been.
Thank you. I have Sean to thank for some of that.
Okay, so I believe we can entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve designation of 265,
236.
236 Eleanor for the Mills Act.
Commissioner Adams, if you could potentially use the language.
Okay,
Thank you.
I recommend that we authorize the city manager to execute a historic preservation agreement per the recommended findings contained in the attached resolution. Find the project is categorically exempt from the environmental review of the California Environmental Quality Act. So,
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Take the vote.
Sure, Commissioner Atkinson, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Commissioner Adams,
I'm
Commissioner McGuire Nagus,
Aye.
Commissioner Coe.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The big congratulations will be when they actually walk into the house and it's done. That's when it's-
Yeah, we all would like to be invited when.
You know,
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, commissioners, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you again.
Yes.
So, I do these- I run into doing historical projects on a fairly steady basis in this town. I've been actually involved in 5 of the landmark properties and probably about a half a dozen of other resource properties. So I still, even though I'm not on the commission, I still enjoy being involved in this. So
Great. Good. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming.
great, thank you.
Okay, next we move on to our discussions. And we have a commission update and plan discussion.
So I can go over work plan.
So this has been to council, or you were going to review with council and then you're coming back as a result of that? Or no?
No, so I had a meeting with the executive team and the assistants to the city manager and other commission liaisons, and they went through a training with us. And so I have a presentation for you that kind of goes over. You may have also gone through individual training with the city clerk, or been given the commission handbook, and this may reiterate some of this for you, but hopefully it's helpful. And then after this, then it would be the work plan discussion. In the previous meeting, I was going to forward you the work plans so you can add things, but based on this training, I couldn't because it would likely be inconsistent with the training that they advise us and how the commission takes actions. At today's meeting, the goal was, receive the update and then for you to discuss and finalize your work plan. Add any additional work plan items you'd like to add, and then to review the work plan and to kind of come up with general topics that you would like to discuss when you have your joint meeting. Either going to be in January, or it's going to be in February with council. And it'll be the 4 of you, maybe 5, directly speaking with council regarding your work plan, having a discussion. Staff will be there, but we don't participate. That's through the commission.
And then do we also have a meeting with our council liaison? At some point, I thought I read in here that.
Well, generally, I think each commissioner can reach out to their council liaison if they'd like to individually meet.
But it's not a requirement.
No, in the past, the council liaisons used to attend meetings that generally didn't, historical, but at other meetings, planning commission, environmental commission, many times council members attended. Generally, our council members attend, and we do have council member Daly watching by Zoom. So he can, let me just double check, let me see. If he wanted to speak, we can make sure that he has that capacity, because he may be blocked. Speak. Just make sure he's unblocked if he wanted to. Okay, so let me make sure that he's allowed to talk. If he wants to talk. I can just promote him to a panelist in case he wants to. Okay, so let me go to the presentation. A bit short. Okay, so we have a lot of new commissioners. The commissioner as Commissioner Coe have been on for the last year, but we have 2 new commissioners. So I think it's essential to kind of go over what are your powers and duties, which will help define when you're making motions or taking actions that you are like all commissions, limited to what you're assigned within the code itself. So commissioners have duties that are assigned per section 2.12030. Coming up again. There. The commissioners are assigned their duties per code. The commission in itself is advisory only. It's not a final acting body. You provide recommendations to other bodies or to staff. So generally, each of those commissions respect your actions, and generally they act consistent with your directions, but they do have the discretion to act differently if they need to, so they're the final acting body. So in tonight's item, administrative reviewed projects, like the one that was tonight, will be reviewed and finally acted upon by the director. In items that are 2 stories or greater in addition or variances, final acting body will be the zoning administrator, except variances will be planning commission. And then on actions that are for commercial or multifamily or mixed use or zonings, those will be final acting with the planning commission. But all of those would come to you if it involves historic property, either landmark or resource. Powers and duties are lengthy. Kind of what I had stated before. Your responsibility is to recommend updates to the historic resource inventory. Generally, this is more difficult because you have to have direction from council because updates to the inventory are costly. There's a big funding for that. I know that this is around the bend, and we've been saying that before, but it is probably in the next number of years, we're going to have this. So the commission will be directly involved with that within all of your terms likely. To recommend to council proposals for historic landmarks. Seldom do we have it, but at some point there may be a party that may want to propose a landmark. So you provide recommendations to council for landmarks. When it comes to historic resources, you are the final acting body. So you can deem historic resource properties historic. You are final acting on that element. When it comes to any type of project, if it includes a demolition, or if it includes a tentative map or rezoning or building site approval, use permit, a variance, design review, if it affects a historic property, it needs to come to you first. For your recommendation to staff, or to the planning commission, or to council, and then they'll take the final action based on your recommendation, looking at the historic policy requirements in our code. If there are modifications to the historic resource inventory, which hasn't happened in a number of years, we're to do an annual report to the council. Perform any other duties as delegated by council by resolution, cooperate with the Association of the Los Altos Sister Museum and submit annual reports to council, and review and make recommendations to the planning director. The annual report action is generally your annual meeting with the council on your work plan. In the past, there used to be a staff report that went with it. In the last few years, that hasn't been.
Is there a time of year that annual meeting happens?
Oh, it's changed from year to year, but currently it's January, February. And your commission's generally been February, the first meeting in February. Because all the other, I think like planning commission, park and rec, all of them seem to go in January, and then we generally occur in February. But it could change. There's no rhyme or reason to it. The city clerk will tell me, and I'll tell you right away. Every October is the election of chair, vice chair. That's why we have the chair election in October. And then the terms roll over every year in October. Attendance and participation. Majority of the members required in person for meetings to take place. Commissioners must attend 75% of regularly scheduled meetings, which you have 4, so you can only miss 1. Otherwise, you're supposed to report to city clerk, and if you have a reasonable basis for it, then just convey that to staff and we'll advise them. I think most of the executive team are pretty fair about it, and there's lots of reasons that people can't have. Commissioners must let liaisons, myself, know at least a week in advance if you can't attend the meeting or if you need to attend it remotely. Why do you have to let me know a week in advance? We have to notice it. So if you're going to be, if you need to attend a meeting and you're going to be out of town and you really want to attend because it's a great topic or something, you have to let me know a week in advance. We have to notice in the paper. You have to notice on the city's website the location where you're going to be, so that members of the public can attend the meeting if they like to attend the meeting. And it does happen. We had a previous council member in Japan or somewhere that members of the public attended in another country. So it's totally happens. So you just have to let us know. If you don't give us the week notice, you can't participate. You can only attend 20% of your meetings remotely. So, so you can't realistically, because 20% is less than 25. So you have to attend all of them or just not attend. So that's Commissions that meet monthly, it's easier to comply with this. Right? Commissions that meet quarterly, it's more difficult. Reporting. So we had to provide a work plan in the first quarter of the calendar year, which is the goal tonight. Provide an annual plan to council at the joint meeting, which will occur next year. This is kind of the language that they wanted us to use. They gave me a template. That's what we have tonight. Ad hoc committees. A lot of craziness about ad hoc committees in the past, and so they want us to be very careful about ad hoc committees. Ad hoc committees can be established by the commission, but it has to be comprised of less than a majority of it. And they have to stay focused on the specific topic that you're assigning to, and it shall be last no longer than 1 year, and it shall comply with all aspects of the Brown Act. We've had some commissions, and not our commission, but other commissions, not great. And so as a result, council's been very tough about ad hoc intentionally, and a good reason why. And so we seldom have ad hocs. We've had them for the orchard, when the orchard was in really great decline, and based on your stewardship, we've seen this vast improvement in the overall orchard. We had an ad hoc committee for the interpretive sign that's there. A few commissioners worked together to develop that sign for the History Museum. So we've had some kind of important things, and we've had it, I think, for the Halsey House years ago.
And is 2 of our 4 a majority or not?
No. Yeah, so generally you're 5, and at some point you're gonna have a 5th member, and then it's gonna be 2 members. Right now, you're missing 1 member, but they will find a replacement.
I just wanted.
Yeah.
We could have an ad hoc committee.
You could, yes. There are other alternatives, which I'm gonna show you. So in addition to ad hocs, so again, on ad hocs, you have to have specific topics, specific timeframes. You cannot be an area of continuing jurisdiction, cannot be established in multiple years. Must report findings in full to the commission, and commissioners can only serve on 1 at a time. You can't serve on multiple. So you can't have ad hoc committees that are covering similar topics that kind of overlap in the topic area. So they have to be distinct with clear delineated direction from commission on what their focus is to be. And there can be overlap in the individual ad hoc committees. To establish an ad hoc committee, and I highly recommend, if you maybe want to, let me know in advance. We have to develop these motions because it's specific. The motion of establishment must include that the ad hoc committee is comprised solely of members of the commission, consists of less than a quorum, include a defined purpose and time frame, and will automatically terminate when the final report is submitted. So those have to be in the motion. If we don't have them in the motion, then we'll be coming back to you again at the next meeting to establish it with a new motion. Because I'll have to go back to my manager or director, and then it'll probably get rejected. So if you want to establish them, please let me know. I'll make sure to have the language set up for you so then you can read from that directly. Will not be reestablished or renewed in multiple years and is advisory in nature. Now, something new, which all of you may want to use at some point, is called working pairs. Wholly new, we never had this before, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for commissioners. So unlike ad hoc committees, which require formal approval on a limited in duration and scope, the commission may assign commissioners into working groups to provide research, information, fact gathering, prioritizing or other activities. Working groups may consist of 1 or 2 commissioners who are able to meet and discuss topics of commission interest prior to reporting back to an open committee. The commission may take action on the report or simply receive it. Working groups are designed to allow commissioners to work in more flexible time frame, to respond to requests and initiatives, or to move forward work plans. Examples are, the differences, of course, is an ad hoc committee is very formal, working pairs is informal. Ad hoc is focused on a project, informal is working as components of plans or projects. Examples, of an ad hoc committee could be the main library improvements, or it could be improvements to the orchard. Or working pairs could be like working on a flyer for the library, or working on an interpretive sign, or working on the work plan would be working as a working pair. The last meeting, if we had known this, you could have just established a working pair. And then you could have informally just worked together, not worrying about the Brown Act or any of these things, because you'd be working informally.
So there's no Brown Act restriction with the pairs.
Well, not that I'm, for ad hoc, yes,
Yeah.
but for working pairs, because of its informality, I'm not aware of that. If there is, I'll let you know. Commissioners may also assign individual commissioners to act as liaisons to other boards, commissions, or agencies without establishing an ad hoc committee. So, if you wanted to have someone have a direct connection or relationship with the History Museum or with county's historic preservation organization, you could assign individuals that can attend in county meetings or attend History Museum meetings so that we can have that direct connection between them. You have that authority to do that. The full commission has to be updated if you do attend these meetings as a liaison. Commission is supported by the liaison are to be aligned with the positions of the commission or the city council if they've taken a position on a particular topic. Council liaisons will meet with the commission chair and staff liaison once per year at a minimum. So Commissioner Coe, at some point they may meet with you, you can always reach out to them. The liaison shall not direct, guide, or unduly influence the policy makings of the advisory body. I mean, each council member is different. Sometimes they like to provide their input and conflict of interest. Please be aware of perceived conflict of interest, incompatible activities. Perceived conflict of interest of the commissioner may arise when there's personal relationships, financial interests, serving on bodies or boards that have shared or overlapping subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. If you have a perceived conflict of interest, please reach out to the city clerk's office. Don't reach out to me, because they need to direct you whether you may have a potential conflict or not. Perceived conflict of interest, contact me. I'll ask for you to contact the city clerk so to make sure you don't have a particular problem. And then they will seek out advice from the city attorney and advise you whether there's potential conflict. If there's either financial or personal or some other issue, there may be a conflict. And sometimes that happens because we've had commissioners that are architects and designers and they're all involved in the community, or sometimes they sit on boards of the History Museum and we have a historical related item on the agenda that's tied to the History Museum. So in that case, you may want to reach out and see if there's a conflict.
Is there, I'm remembering there was, if it was this body or not, that if, say we were talking about a certain property, and if you lived within a certain radius of that property.
Yeah, we're developing maps for that, conflict of interest maps.
Okay.
We should have that for the next meeting of conflict of interest maps, and so prior to any public hearing, we'll look at the maps and then we will, because you have new members, we're getting those together, we should have those by the next meeting. And we can provide each of you your conflict of interest map if you'd like, so that you can be aware if there's a property within your boundaries, then you just indicate there's, conflict of interest in your location. So first, the law, public official.
This mostly comes where people are getting zoning variances.
Pardon?
This mostly arises where people are asking for zoning variances. And therefore, if you're a neighbor, you might be affected by it.
But something like today's, if I live next door to this guy, it wouldn't matter. I wouldn't have a conflict of interest.
No.
Okay.
No. So per state law, public official, including commissioner, may not engage in any activity for compensation that is inconsistent or incompatible or in conflict with your official duties. I think we all know that part. Conflict of interest is ultimately the responsibility of the commission member to identify whether there may be engaging in incompatible activities or have perceived conflict of interest. Again, city attorney should be consulted if you believe you may ever come up with that issue. we have a slide about CEQA. If you have questions about CEQA, please let me know. Generally, most historical related projects are categorically exempt as long as they comply with Secretary of the Interior standards. And then if they don't, if it's a designation, there's another exemption that they can utilize. If they don't qualify for exemption, then there are other factors, and then we would raise those with the meeting. But we can always check in with staff if you have any concerns regarding that. And then that is what I'm supposed to have covered regarding that important information. And then the work plan, per the minutes, I did modify the work plan based on your direction. I did delete the note section where you asked me to. I did assign the commissions per your direction. And then it's just up to you if you'd like to approve the work plan or if you would like to add any additional items to the work plan.
I noticed on the slide that you had that showed the headers for the historical commission or for the work plan, it does include this final column that we kind of eradicated.
But that's okay. I mean,
That's okay.
those notes are specific to the commission, and if you felt you needed to add notes, you could add notes. But
Okay.
I don't think you felt it. We do have notes in some of them,
Mhm.
but that's your prerogative. That's your work plan. And if council, unless council at your joint meeting said, you should, I doubt it. But if they were to say, we think you should have some more notes, then that's their prerogative as council members.
We're going back a little, can you explain a little bit about being exempt from environmental things?
Oh, sure. So
I see it everywhere now.
So the California Environmental Quality Act, when it comes to historic preservation, requires us to evaluate potential impacts to historic properties. Because under CEQA, a modification to historic property that would result in it potentially losing its either historical significance or integrity and potentially impact its designation would be considered a significant environmental effect. And to avoid that, the state in its wisdom has established categorical exemptions. And these are categories of exemptions that cover a whole multitude of options. Some of them, there are exemptions for additions. There are exemptions for new homes. There are exemptions for historic properties that if they comply with Secretary of the Interior standards, then it will not result in a significant effect. So I believe 15332, 15331 of the California Environmental Quality Act states that if you rehabilitate or restore a home consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standard, the state legislature has deemed that will not create a significant effect on historic property. So generally, all properties meet that requirement. That is the central reason why we have them write these reports. And if they don't write the reports, we write the reports to prove in the public record that we meet this requirement. If we don't have it in the record, then a member of the public could challenge us under CEQA both legally or through the city, and we would be forced to come back to you and then address that. So that's the pertinent reason why we do that. And so most projects fall under that exemption, which is set by the legislature. And that's what you'll mostly see. Now, in a worst case scenario, you could see someone challenge the Secretary of the Interior standards, but generally, that would not happen because generally, while a historian writes the reports, staff job is to not trust that our job is to confirm, to make sure that the report is correct and accurate, and it does comply with Secretary of the Interior standards. And so there is a back and forth in making sure the reports are written to our standards. The last one, because of all the revisions that occurred with it, is kind of an anomaly. We're trying to push it through, but generally that's the expectation. Is that help?
So, yeah.
Now, if projects don't comply with exemptions. For instance, if somebody wanted to come in and demolish a historic house. One avenue they could take is they could do a historic resource evaluation and have it evaluated and find out if it's historic or not. There are homes that have been placed on the inventory that maybe shouldn't have been placed, and we've seen some removed over the years. And so if we were to do a historic research evaluation and then potentially did a peer review of it, which is what we would probably do, then if it came out not to be historic, then if it's a resource, we could bring it to you, have it removed from the inventory, and it could be demolished. But realistically, if it came back that it was still historic, then in order to demolish historic resource for a landmark that's known to be a landmark, it would require environmental impact report, which would be a lengthy, a very extensive process. And it would require council to approve a statement of overriding consideration, acknowledging that they are creating a significant environmental effect and removing historic structure. Seldom does that happen unless it's serving a public good. So if there is, you see it in other cities, not here, they're building affordable housing, hundreds of units, then potentially that does happen. Where they will mitigate it through a series of factors, putting a plaque on the site, preserving the facade of the building and then building another structure directly behind. There's a whole series of mitigation measures that can be done through EIR sometimes to try to mitigate it as much as they can. You can't really mitigate the loss of historic structure, but you can try to acknowledge what was there through either plaques or other elements or preserving elements of the structure. We generally have not done that, but we don't have the public facilities or the sites to kind of do that, so it's like unlikely here, but that's the other direction it could take. And I think someone has approached us about removing a structure, and that's gonna be unlikely. This staff won't support it if it qualifies for. Did you have any questions about, on your first item, you had the Margaret Thompson essay contest? Do you have any other revisions to it you'd like to make?
So Jericho, I think you mentioned you had the responsibility in the past of being a commissioner, who was the primary liaison for this activity. Is that right? Jericho, were you, the primary commissioner assigned to be?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so your opinion would be useful to me as the new person here. When you read this, do you see anything else I should be aware of in working with this?
In terms of what this is supposed, a work plan, I mean, it doesn't mention that you need to go buy ice cream for the, which is probably the bulk of the work. So I think for what it's supposed to be, I think this is adequate.
Okay, great.
That there are, some of those things underneath of, getting the ice cream
Right.
and I can help you with that.
Well, yeah, even I could be a work fair,
Yeah,
right, Sean?
sure.
We could form.
You could, I mean, I don't think it's work pair, you could just team up together and it's less than 3, and it's 2 members, then you're fine.
Oh, that's not a work pair, okay.
No, I mean, but you guys could just work together on the item and, the normal tasks that you guys may have to do certain things, I will just notify you. I usually always let you guys know, like, you need to make sure to buy the ice cream.
Right.
I always like notify everybody. I have a calendar of events, so I just try to stick to the calendar. I could forward the calendars to each of you.
I bought way too much last year.
Still in
We're
our freezer.
swimming in
Still in
it.
our freezer. Yeah.
Do you have a date for the, 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 for final, the ice cream part of the.
The first council meeting in May. May, yeah, that's right, it's May.
First city council meeting, right?
Yes. It occurs on the same day as the city council meeting on Tuesday. It starts at 4 or 5 o'clock. It varies based on when schools get out and
Yeah.
when council meetings are scheduled, and we try to get council members to attend, but they've been having a lot of meetings that kind of run right over into it, so it's been difficult for them to attend, because I know they like to participate. But it's not always worked the last couple of years.
So theoretically, that could be a note that says ice cream social, first council meeting in May. Is that like in the notes section?
You could, if that's what you would like.
Cause that's pretty standard, right?
Yes, because it's historic preservation month, so everything happens in the month of May, generally.
I think putting it in the notes is a great idea, because it kind of calls our attention
Yeah.
to the schedule. Thank you, Commissioner Vegas, for bringing up the question about the timing of that, so
Yeah.
we can have that down here.
Okay, I will have that. I'll correct your name also. I saw. On the plaque program, I mean, there isn't any, it generally starts in February. We'll get everybody's information by March. This is all done by staff generally. We send letters out. And we-
Who's initiating nominations for historic?
There's no nominations for historic plaque. We have a list of properties that haven't received plaques, and we just mail them a letter asking if they'd like a plaque. And then we receive 1 or 2 people every year that say they'd like a plaque, and we order them. And they get produced somewhere in the Midwest. We receive them in April, and then in May, we just disperse it to them. There's no, and there was a time period where there was like a special event.
Well, when we got ours, I think there's probably 10 houses that got it that year.
Yeah, there was a
And
period
then
where
it's going back.
yeah, we were giving quite a few away at the beginning. It's kind of a lesson over time. And many times I have a stack of them, so if people request it and I have their year in my box, I just ask them to come to City Hall and pick it up. So the second one is usually staff driven, but I do check in with you in April and let you know the status.
Okay.
I have a informational item that I check in with you and let you know what's going on and how many people we received requests for.
So would you like to put that in the notes that
April
April?
staff notice of
Yes,
status report in April.
and stuff.
Okay, I'll do that. And then rehabilitation of historic landmark, orchard. Generally, this has been, the Orchard Commons Committee, Jane Packard, coming in on an inconsistent basis based on when you want her to come in. You just ask me and I ask her if she'd like to do an update on status. And then, so there's no real timeline to it. As they progress on the orchard, like right now, nothing is happening with the orchard, but as they progress in the spring and in the summer, there's usually more activity and they come in with a report.
Now, what she brought in today, the Eagle Scout project, would that fall in, the fact that she brought it to us and we received it, that doesn't count under this?
No, it goes to, I mean, it could, but yeah, not now because it hasn't gone through Park and Rec. So any type of project with city properties, especially the orchard, goes through Park and Rec. So Park and Rec, Manny Hernandez, the director, will receive the application And then they have a separate process they go through, and then when they finalize the plans, finalize the process, then only when it's complete and accepted by them, then they then route it to this planning division, and then we go through your historical. If necessary. There are many times it's not necessary.
Yeah, because I can't, if you're just gonna approve the plat. I mean, if it's just a matter of redoing the plats.
Manny will likely talk directly to my director
Okay.
and find out whether my director believes it's something that falls within the jurisdiction based on the duties you had, whether it falls under that.
Okay,
And it-
okay.
sometimes I don't know, I'm not aware of those things. It's usually Manny speaking to my director, whether this requires historical commission review, and then we'll look at your responsibilities and look at the code, and if it doesn't fall under those authorities, then it just managed through Manny and it's just taken care of. I won't know, they'll have a communication and I'll hear about it, and then I'll let you know if I know anything at that point. Right now, it's conceptual. And the city may not support it, or they may, I don't know. Yeah. Because it's city property, and they're the ones that determine whether they'll accept an application or not.
So really, this whole line, excuse me, this whole line item then would be driven by a request from somebody. From the manager or.
The orchard is driven by staff. As we see changes occurring in the orchard, and we reach out to Jane. I generally reach out to Jane and say, hey, I see a lot of improvements happening, you can give a report to the commission.
Okay.
And so then she's like, of course, like she's always excited to come in, and she comes right in and tells you about all the wonderful things she's been doing with the orchard over the last year. Which is just like immense, all the things she's done with the orchard, how wonderful it's changed. So and I think she loves to talk about it. She
That's
says,
fun and helpful.
yeah, so much things that have made her so much healthier, and the irrigation system and all the things she's done since that happened.
Okay. So. Reservation entitlements?
These are just, as people submit them, when somebody has an addition, somebody wants a mills, or somebody wants to be placed on the inventory, as we get them, and we've gotten quite a few in this last end of the year, but generally it's been kind of slow. Hopefully it'll pick up, and I think we're gonna have some applications next year already. In the beginning of the year, probably. I think for modifications to historic property coming at this point in the new year. It may not be January, it may be April, or unless we do a special meeting.
If somebody has a property, they already know it's a store.
They should, but sometimes they don't.
So,
Sometimes they purchase the property and they don't realize they bought it.
so then they would go to like the planning commission first and somebody would say, oh, wait, this is a historic house.
So if somebody comes in
Call
and
that
they,
differently.
yeah, if they want to, if somebody comes in, if somebody calls us at City Hall and has questions about, oh, I'm thinking about doing an addition or modification. And we're like, oh, it's historic property, the first thing we tell them, it pops up on the screen, historic. And so we'll let them know, and then we say, oh, it's historic, is to go to historical for a modification, and then if it's one story, administrative, if it's 2-story, it goes to zoning administrator, the variance, it goes to planning. So we let them know all of this, and when they find out, you know, if they not know, they're usually not happy, but over time, we try to give some of the positive things.
Disclosure when they file tax.
Well, I mean, if it's a mills, it is. If it's easily discoverable, for any real estate agent to find out that it's historic. So any reasonable, real estate agent should know that when they buy it, when they're selling it or buying it, because it's all available. Our GIS system, most of these real estate agents come in and talk to us every time they sell something. So there shouldn't be a surprise, it's all they do that diligence when they're selling a property, so they shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It is a big impact to property values. Historic Preservation Award, gosh, so that's that in like February, maybe. I mean, so this has to come to the April meeting. That means in order to go to the May meeting of council. So that means at the latest, this has to be in the newspaper in February. So the staff contacts the town crier. Town crier does a local newspaper article. And we post everything on the city's website. And generally, we don't receive responses unless they in the past, generally it either comes from historic commission members or the history museum, or sometimes other members of the public, very head. So then in March, I'll receive applications, and then at the April meeting, I'll present them to you. Generally, there's one or two people, and then you would select amongst the applications and then all the supporting letters. Usually there's a list of letters attached of all the people supporting the nominee. And then you choose between the two. Fourth reason.
It can be hard.
And so at the May meeting, it goes to council, staff prepares a proclamation, we give it to the city clerk prepares it, the mayor signs it, and then at the May meeting, usually the second meeting in May, because the first meeting is all the children are in the council chambers, it's a lot. So we usually do the second meeting, so it's not just like a historic meeting for council, the first one. Second meeting in May is usually the preservation award. Proclamation is provided, and we make sure to invite the recipient, and their friends and family can attend. And the mayor usually reads the proclamation and visits. And that's based on, that is an action that's solely yours. Like, you make the motion, you take the action, you're the ones who vote for them. And then we prepare the proclamation, the council is kind enough to sign it and then present it. Because it's not a council approved project, it's a historic commission approved project. But they've been kind of, they've signed it every year, so.
So April is when we would do our selection, right?
Yeah, April, a lot of stuff's going on. You have the plaque program, you're gonna get an update. You're gonna get an update on the preservation award. You're gonna get final information on the number of participants in the essay contest, and they will be conducting final readings of the essays so that those can be, so that we can contact the schools and the children in the month of April on who the winners are. Then we prepare all the checks at City Hall so that we can have them for the first meeting with all of the certificates. We can have the ice cream social ready. And the second meeting of the preservation award, we get a proclamation.
So the only meeting we have in that time frame is April.
Wow. Yeah, the staff's doing a lot of stuff, the busy work. It's slowly over time, it's moved over to staff because we have less meetings now. So I've been traditionally been doing it for years.
So for the Historic Preservation Award, if somebody can't nominate whenever, right? It only starts in December, the nomination period, is that right?
The preservation starts in February.
Okay, because it says begins in December each year for Historic Preservation Award. Does that mean when people can nominate?
I mean, it could start in December, but I don't think it should start in December. I think it should start in January. I mean, we could change that to January. December is too early. I don't have capacity for December.
So like if tomorrow, there was some word from somebody that they wanted to nominate so-and-so for Historic Preservation Award, the response would be, we can do that in January? We're not gonna look at it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we don't look at anything. I mean, we put up the application online, people submit, we take it, put it in a file. And then we have the April meeting, we then attach it to a report and then you choose
Oh, okay.
from the selection.
So somebody could actually apply online now, it's just that nobody.
Nothing's up right now.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a blank page. We don't put anything up until January usually.
Okay, thank you.
Then we have a template and we just insert it, update the sheets and then approve.
Do we want to put, like we did for the Margaret Thompson essay contest, any of this timing of the historic preservation award
In the notes.
in the
column.
notes? Yeah.
Do you want me to put the historic preservation award in a second or fourth, is it fourth Tuesday of May? I think it council's second and fourth,
Right.
so it's the fourth Tuesday of May.
Okay, and then should we put that, because it's gonna impact us in April, that we could say like commission action in April, because we need to make the decision, something like that.
I could do that.
Does that work?
That's a good idea. To me.
This was one thing, the quincentennial.
Yeah, quincentennial, yeah.
But remember, we had a discussion on that a meeting or so ago. I think it was last one, about how if we need to spruce that up a bit. And I'm wondering if that is a subject we should talk to council about. I don't know. At our joint meeting. It seems to me the only issue really that we have at this point, and I don't know if it's something we should discuss on our own, or it's something we should get council feedback on. I don't know.
I don't know, I think for staff, it's just time. It's about finding time. January through June, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the only time we have is either December or September, October, November.
Yeah.
To do those type of projects. Because those other months are kind of filled. So, yeah, I mean, you could talk to them, it's a matter of if they make it a priority, then the director can make it a priority. And if the director makes it a priority, then they can adjust my workload so that I can have capacity to do it.
Yeah.
But and sometimes that's driven by council and by you talking to council and they shift what is a priority for me.
Well, and I wonder if, I guess, not knowing how things work in the world of cities, if council should be aware that this requirement isn't being met a lot because y'all don't have the time. And so that they can't. So the solution to the problem, the Mills Act as we set it up requires it. But it can't get done in the current, with things as they are, reasonably so. And I guess I'm trying to figure out a way that we could fix that. So that kind of work is able to get done. But without them saying, well, Sean, you gotta do it, and trying to add to your workload. Does that make sense?
How many a year would that be?
Well, it would, because we would be doing it all at once, it would just end up creating an every 5-year cycle for all of them, because it's not been done in the past.
So they don't all come in at different times.
Well, if we were to base it on when the year they came in, then yes, but because it's not been done, we're kind of starting at zero. And so all of them would be every 5 years, except new ones that came in, then they would be on a different time cycle. So at some point in the future, a new historic house may be added, and then they'd be on a different cycle. The different Mills Act would be on a different cycle.
Like the one we saw tonight.
Like the one tonight would be in January, but they may end up timing with these too. Because the timing may be difference of 3 months or something, because if we were to work through it in December and get you something by the middle or the middle first quarter of next year, then that's within 3 months. We probably just stick it with that timing and then check it in 5 years.
So that's 16 or 17, right?
Yeah.
You have to do.
So by inspections, you have to actually go out to the property or you just?
No, that's not been the direction. The direction is an informal approach, which is just to write them a letter and to get them to provide a list of the work they've done and the monetary value of that work. And then from that list is to then follow up and get them to provide us a new maintenance program. Which takes more guidance because it's easy for us to receive a list of the work they've done. They just collect all the receipts and just put it in an Excel document and send it to me. It's the work plan, which some people have never created, because some of them are so old, they go back to the 90s, that they're gonna have to work with us back and forth to do it. It's not gonna be easy to get them to develop work. For the newer ones, easy. They know what to do.
Yeah, that's like attachment B and.
Yeah. It's probably the first 8 of them are gonna be a lot of work. Because they won't know what to do because they've never given us a work plan because they're, and the problem may be, we may not even be able to ask for a work plan because the original contracts don't have a requirement for a work plan.
Okay.
And that makes it more difficult because we can't even ask for a work plan. All we can do is ask for proof because they have an old contract that doesn't stipulate it. So then we're stuck because half of them have an old contract. All we could do is say, give us proof of your work. And we have no guiding post because we have no contract that specifies specific metrics we're supposed to meet every year. Because they have an old version of the contract that didn't stipulate that. Because the laws have evolved over time and stipulated these requirements, so they may not have had that requirement then.
So are they still getting the tax break since the 90s? They've still been getting that, but they provided no documentation in some cases.
Yeah,
Okay, that was-
generally I would say this, I mean, I wrote a academic paper on the Mills Act and I researched cities through the Bay Area and did surveys on properties and the overall finding of the academic research was that all of the cities, none of these cities were doing their job in regards to quinquennial inspections. All the properties were complying. And it wasn't driven by, it was, that's not a good thing because it's showing a failure on the part of the cities in regards to complying with that part of the Mills Act. Then it also shows a lack of oversight over a program that provides a tremendous tax incentive and tax reduction for the city. But the success of it is driven by the individual owners because the types of people that buy them because they love historic properties. And so they personally are incentivized to keep their building historically well maintained. So all these buildings were well maintained. Talking some cities like Santa Clara had hundreds of Mills Act. Majority of them were all well maintained, and Santa Clara was not inspecting any of them ever.
Wow.
So it's all driven by the historic owners because they're a unique bunch of people that buy them for a reason. Because it's a lot of work to own a historic property, and they buy them and they maintain them because they love them. So that's the research kind of showed that. And in the properties we've seen that are historic, with the exception of one property. Most of them have been well maintained except one. That one house just improved the property this year. So they were the outlier, and this year they just spent a ton of money. Hundreds of $1,000s and just rehabilitated their home this year. You didn't see it because they went through the building division and it was just a maintenance program. So we had one outlier and they just did their work. So I imagine it's gonna say the same story as we've seen, as I saw academically through other cities. Is that, yes, we're not conducting oversight, but individual owners are doing it themselves. They don't need babysitters about it, but it shouldn't dissuade us from our job because it's city money and there's a program, and you should be doing our job and doing it. It's whatever you think, because this is your work.
Well, I don't know the answer.
Except it will get done, and we're working through it, and it's not been on the agenda until this last year, so it will get accomplished. Just may take a little bit of time, I think, from staff.
Need to get the baseline, a re-baseline the 16.
Yeah. It's a priority, and it's just a matter of finding the time and getting it done, and it'll get done.
Yeah.
Because at least in the planning division, we know that it's a priority for us. What we don't want,
Well,
Well, isn't there some way-
nature may break up your workload. If you can only get 8 done in 1 year, then you're on a different cycle.
Isn't there some way to put them on a different- Pull out of that 1 year.
Not by plan, but
5 this year, 5 next year, and.
well, I mean, I'm happy to work.
5 years from that.
I know Commissioner Coe, I'm happy if you'd like work together. I know you wanted to work on this. We can always, I've worked with commissioners before directly on projects. I mean, we could develop a schedule and work together on moving this forward.
If it
together.
would help you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Seems like a good thing to get done.
and as I said, you don't get to all 16 at once. That's okay.
Yeah, that's.
And that's better than not getting to any. It can't be 16 or nothing.
so what I can do is I can set up a file, like a digital file, like a cloud folder for you with the letters that we have and the documents we have now, and then we can maybe schedule a time, we can go over that, and then we can like talk through moving this forward together.
Sure, if it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can do
that'd
that.
be
We can schedule a time and then maybe schedule a meeting date on a timeline every 3 weeks or whatever you think. So we can move this forward and we can work together on responses
Mhm.
to them, like improving the letters or like we can talk about what we may need or what things we can get from them. So
Sure.
then you can prepare letters, we can vote, I can mail them out, we can work together as a team and get it done.
yeah, that'd be great.
Is that okay?
Happy to do that.
I can do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I can commit to that, because if we have a team that we can work together and try to move things through, then I'm fine.
I would suggest do the easy ones.
Yeah.
The easy ones are the old ones, so why don't we do that? I'll take the ones with the old contracts,
Right,
those are the easy ones, because we don't have to ask them to do a maintenance program, because there's no legal requirement, so we can stick with the easy ones first. And then the ones that have the new contracts, then that's the second phase we'll work on.
okay,
Is that okay?
sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so then I will create the cloud folders of the two, and then I'll send you the link.
Okay.
So then we can work from there.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, that sounds good.
okay, cool. Okay, I'm happy.
Good outcome of that
I know.
discussion.
The local government program, the CLG status, that's in January, it's just a template document. I get it from the Office of Historic Preservation. I just fill it out and I bring it to you. Part of the thing with the CLG status is it requires that each commissioner should do, training, and so if you, I would highly recommend that. And I'll try to, I'll send links to different historic preservation organizations. I'd recommend that you all sign up for them, because with them comes opportunities for trainings, like they have workshops and they have weekend things all at San Francisco and Palo Alto and San Jose, and you could just participate and then if you get involved with the county, then you can maybe get to know some of the other commissioners too, which could be helpful. So I'll send you links to some of the organizations, and then maybe you can sign up, and if you see something you'd like to participate in, just email me, and then we can sign you up, the city will pay for it, we have a training budget.
Cool.
Okay. That'll be for next year, that's the whole goal, is to get you to at least one training class.
Mhm.
2 orgs, there's like, I think there's 2 groups, so you can sign up.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll do that. Hold an annual meeting with the museum, the History Museum Board of Directors and seek opportunities for partnership. I kind of explained before, in the last year, I've not been allowed to schedule those things with you. That's a conversation you can always have with council, whether they still want to make this a priority, because if I can't schedule them for you, then the joint meetings don't happen. So it's just a conversation, whether you still want this on the agenda or not. I mean, it's, if you look on the PowerPoint I showed you, it's on the list of like your duties. Is
Right.
to,
And why haven't they been letting us do that?
Is it maybe related to the new executive director, the transition in directors at the museum? Maybe it's has delayed things.
I think that there's been a lot of like, I think there's a lot of city projects that are happening on the civic campus that are creating a lot of angst amongst different groups of people. And so I think we're trying to get through that, trying to get through those projects. And I think we're on the other side. And then I think it's probably gonna be easier, but I think they're concerned that the joint meeting between the city commission and a separate independent body that has members that are opposing a lot of things may be problematic. Because we have like the Lacey project, which is the executive building. There's the new library expansion for the outdoor patio. We have a dog park expansion. We have a proposed expansion for new parking along the aisle next to the police station. All these are impacting the orchard, or not even the orchards, but there's that perception. So I think that's what's driven it, is all these kind of improvements are causing all kinds of angst amongst members of the public, and we're all getting pulled into it. And so I think they're trying to avoid your commission from being pulled into it also.
Should we then say, should we note that this is deferred until TBD kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I continue to ask every year, so I continue to request it. So I think it's it's always been very beneficial for all of you to have it, to have those relationships with the commission, with the museum board.
Is the new executive director, I think, might have some input. She started in April, not even really 6 months ago.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way that we could either meet with her, ask her to come talk with us, or talk about new ways that we can interact with her. Like it says, like future education and outreach programs. Does she have any ideas on things that we can help with? Or our participation would be helpful? I wonder if we could have a fruitful conversation that didn't get into the weeds of the issues.
Didn't get into the weeds of the onks.
Yeah, but then, to your point, still getting to know her and her us.
Well, I think, I mean, I work for the city and you're independent, you're individual commissioners, and how you manage your time and how you communicate with other entities is your prerogative. So if you want to reach out to them, that's your choice. And I coordinate the agenda. Generally, I coordinate the agenda with you if there's special things going on. So if you wanted to organize that, that's your choice. You just let me know. I can put it on there. If you wanted to attend. But I could personally like schedule it.
Right, because you're sitting.
Because I'm the city and I'm following the direction of my executive team.
Okay.
So, but if you guys want to have your own individual communication with them, as long as it's not a quorum, it's not, as long as it's not, unless it's an approved working team, or unless it's an approved ad hoc committee. But if you individually, as individual citizens or individual commissioners, speak to them, that's your prerogative. we're not involved in that, we're just involved in the activities of the commission in a formal setting.
So we as commissioners, so could come in and say, you know, I'd really like to have so-and-so come speak. Or to put that on the agenda.
Well, if we look at it historically, we used to have, Elizabeth Ward, Dr. Ward attend. We never invited her, she just came. I mean, and that's just like, Ms. Packard attending, she just came. So, the best way is just attending, is just, and generally, Dr. Ward would attend when she had insightful information or helpful information or just data she wanted to share. And she used to come 3, 4, 5 times a year. We used to have meetings monthly. So you guys could always open up communication with them and invite them to attend informally, and that's their prerogative, and they could speak during the items on the agenda, and that's what Dr. Ward has done for years, all the years she was here and the previous person to her. They just came informally. The only time they formally came is when they had a project.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was all informal. Or if we had an item on the agenda, then she would come to speak. But generally, she just stopped in.
Maybe that's do you know her?
Yeah, I'm acquainted with her. I wouldn't say I know her well, but I've met her. She knows who I
Jane
am.
and I are both volunteers at the museum.
Yeah, maybe you get a chance just to.
Approach her and, if inform, not invite her to a meeting, but just kind of talk in more informally.
She might not know that.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, it's always when one director leaves and another comes on, you don't know exactly how much the new person knows about how things used to be.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if you did invite her, probably just introduce yourself, because
Yeah.
it'd be good, because there's a lot of projects that happen with History Museum on civic grounds that you're involved in.
So it sounds like our April meeting is really packed.
Yeah.
Should she be approached and asked if she could come to our January meeting? Yeah, which is January 27th, I think.
Yes. Fourth Monday.
Okay, I'll take responsibility for inviting her, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure. Evaluate the current status of city-owned historical properties.
Of course, I'd like to remind the commission that your priorities are the council's priorities. So, we've had experiences in the past where I think the commission was more activist oriented, which I think was fine, because at the time, there was nobody actively advocating for the orchard. That's not the case anymore. Like, there's multiple groups advocating for the orchard. And I think there's council commitment and funds for the orchard. It looks beautiful. And there's Park and Rec is managing the Halsey House, and they're working on solutions to that. So there's kind of, I think the commission's been wonderful of like activating things that nobody's really been responding to. And it's just a question whether you think there are those today. But usually, if there are, you have to go to council and get it.
I think tend to be the hot button issues, the Halsey House. It's above our pay grade.
If there ever are things that you feel are important, then the opportunity is your yearly thing. So it may not be this year, but it may evolve over the year and becomes so important for all of you. Then in the weekly, in the yearly meeting, bring it up with them. Don't hold back. Tell them your concerns, and they may place it as a work plan item for you. The work plan, I made those revisions, okay. So I will add those revisions in the notes for the minutes, and then I'll correct it for January. Are there any particular special topics or just that you would like to talk about with the council in January, or just generally talk about the work plan.
Well, certainly if they have any additional things that they would like to put on the work plan or want to take away, it would seem it'd be a good time to talk about it. But we don't have anything we want to add.
This seems to cover like,
Yeah.
what I sort of see as realistic scope for our commission is pretty developed in here. But I don't have the experience that those of you who've been on the commission longer have.
Well, I'll come back to my thought about trying to involve the real estate people. And the extent that they're intimately involved in transfer of properties, history gets lost at that point. The extent that they can help us save it, that would be a good thing. And I think we can think creatively about how we might engage them. So our goal is to increase knowledge and interest in the history of the town.
Which
And
also,
that's a touch point in my opinion.
which also works into my idea of having a online historic record of buildings before they're remodeled or demolished.
Yes,
Which I think I want, which I don't think we're nearly ready to do. But I want to explore the idea a little bit.
well, it would be a way of homeowners bragging about what they've done. We often have, the town crier will often have in their special little folder a section about a house that, has been, somebody that's done something special and they're raising, I don't know, butterflies or something, right? But that doesn't get preserved in a logical, easily accessible sort of way. Other than the good folks over at the History Museum.
Yeah, I think the museum is trying to do their museum without walls.
On your online historical record, you're talking about preserving records before.
So you wanna substantially remodel or demolish a house. You just snap a picture of the front of it before you do it. Put it in this database so we know what the house looked like before it's gone.
I've got to admit, I drive down my street and I see these scrapes and I say, darn, I can't remember what the house looked like.
In my neighborhood, I don't remember what they looked like.
So for structure, so again, you're kind of limited to what the previous council has established for the municipal code. And so we're limited to the historic properties. So for historic properties, we do that. If somebody's gonna demolish a home, and it's historic, that's a massive ordeal if somebody wants to do that. But if they wanted to, they have to do a historic resource evaluation, which is gonna take photographs of the home, provide a record, get us DPR, and then if they had to demolish it, if it's historic, they have to go through a full environmental review. If it's not historic and it's not in the inventory, then it's not under the purview of the commission. That doesn't mean that should be something you look at when the inventory update occurs. So I talked about historic resource inventory update. We're gonna be going through a general plan update in 2025, 26. And that's gonna potentially tie into historic resource inventory update within your term, probably. So then there's the opportunity for you working with staff on the inventory update and the buildings we're gonna look at within the community. A lot of buildings have been looked at in the Orange University area on the other side of the expressway. A lot of buildings have been looked at in the downtown and then sporadically throughout the city. And so if you're worried about like ranch style homes or other homes that have never really been looked at, then the inventory will be an opportunity to assess all the inventory in the city, or a lot of inventory, and then understand which ones are historic, and the ones that are historic will be coming through you as additions to the inventory. And the ones that are not historic are nothing of interest, that it'll be an opportunity at that point to then expand inventory.
Well, I think
And
The problem is that the town, the story of the town isn't just the buildings. It's people who live here. And, we don't need to run a police state on a voluntary basis. People want to share that information. And who lived here, can be an interesting story in and of itself. To the extent that we can support that, that's a good thing.
Technically, date-wise, almost every house in Los Altos is over 50 years old.
Yeah.
So even though each one is, they're a little, mostly cookie cutter houses, but still, it would be nice to have a record of where things are in time. And it's just voluntary, you wanna do something to your house, please submit a picture to the database.
so I think the city will do things that are legally required. We don't have the capacity for that, so we will legally do that for structures that are qualified as a resource or landmark. We will only do that. We do it somewhat, if somebody's going to build a new home, they're gonna demolish it. We require them to provide existing and proposed, generally of elevation drawings or photographs. So it's in the record in designer view, so we do have a record. Is it
Could that get into a
searchable?
database?
Yeah, it's, it's not searchable, and I don't know. I mean, it all goes into a database, but it's not very searchable, like you can't query it. It's really horrible to query it. And you'd have to be a council priority to create a system that would allow to query, and we don't have a program like that or a software program that does that. I think we would have we had nowhere to put that. We don't have a program.
Or it could be done possibly through the museum.
That's generally the best avenue. They're usually the reservoir of all of our.
But then could you put in, as far as a packet goes, could you put in a little flyer saying, by the way, could you submit your picture to the History Museum? Or would you be interested in submitting your picture to the History Museum? It's not a requirement, but it's just a.
The way to preserve history.
I mean, it has to be tied. So we always have to be careful about our requests being directly tied to what they're requesting. So if they're asking for an addition, then we ask for what's minimally necessary for them to submit a project and us to review and approve it. I mean, of course that could be done as long as it's a council priority and council tells staff to do it. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with you raising that, part of this meeting is we'll approve the work plan and to come up with topics. If all of you think that's a valid topic, then that's a conversation to have with them.
I think it's a valid topic, but I think probably not submitting it in January, because we don't have any. I think we have to, I have to talk to the museum or try to find a way, if it's even feasible, get it into a database before we could even approach
So
the council.
are you familiar with the database the museum has called Past Perfect?
Yes.
Yeah, so would you see it as something that could be added to that, or would you see it as
Possibly,
a separate
yes.
database
Possibly, but I don't know the restrictions on that either.
on adding it? Yeah, somebody like.
'Cause I add things to it all the time, but this is sort of a different, and maybe someplace else on their website that it would go.
On the museum website?
Yeah,
I see. I just wondered how you were thinking of it.
yeah, something going to something like Past Perfect, but maybe not that, because those are accession things. This would just be a.
Well, there are a lot of photos in there, and it's searchable, like you can search an address or a
Yeah.
street and try to find old photos of that area. So it sounds like, Sean pointed out, there's no way to query the current city system. Ideally, from what you're saying, it sounds like you'd want to be able to search by an address, right?
Yes.
You'd want to know when the house gets torn down, ooh, what did that house look like? I don't remember, so you'd want to search that address, right?
I mean, I think any system would be created that could capture that. It's just, and I know that they want to replace our net tracking system with something else, so, it's only 4 or 5 years old, but they want to replace it. So, I mean, if that becomes a priority and can be incorporated to the system, whatever system they choose, it could happen. But you'd have to work through that. And again, this discussion's annually, so if not this year, next year, you can work through that idea and then in January next year, present that to council. If you think it's all very good for us. Or 5 of you, when it's time.
And then is that something you could have the realtors then,
If they had an interest in it.
but not only could they contribute, but they could also let their clients know that that.
No, that would be the whole point. The point is trying to increase awareness and knowledge about the local history. And, if you can tell people something interesting, they might, they would not have knowledge of.
Mhm.
And, who lived in your house 20 years ago?
I did.
Well, one day I was at my house and this man, man came up and he apparently had lived in the house. And he was telling me, at that point, we had a lot of fruit trees and apparently his family had planted fruit trees. That was not, so.
Yeah. Okay. On the agenda, we are. Reports and comments. That's it.
I don't, I mean, you'll have, I'll give you the timeline when the item goes to council in January. I don't believe I have generally I receive at the beginning of the year a list of meetings that commissioners are assigned to attend. So when I get that list, I'll send it to you. If you're assigned to a specific date, you're supposed to attend and you can attend, then it's between you talking to your commissioners to figure out who can cover for you.
Right.
But one of you will need to attend the council meeting for the Mills Act, which will either occur on the 14th or the 28th. January.
Okay.
I don't think it's on the 14th because that agenda is packed with projects, mine and others.
Mhm.
So likely the 28th. And you're just there to answer questions if council has questions beyond what staff can answer, and it's a commission question.
I know I'm not in town on the 14th.
It's gonna be the 14th or 28th, but we have a bunch of projects that are going on the 14th, and I imagine council's not gonna want 4 planners and 6 projects at their meeting in January 14th. They're probably gonna push on with the 28th. I'll let you all know when I have that, and I'll send that to you. And then once I have the work plan meeting date, I'll send that to you in advance as much as I can. And then if you can please all attend.
And that's just us, or is that with the council?
It's the 4 of you, maybe the 5 of you, whenever the 5th one gets assigned, and then the council members in the council chambers, and then I'm in the audience, I don't participate, it's between you.
And that might be a February meeting?
January, February, generally it's the second meeting that they hold. They give each of you like 30 minutes to an hour to talk. And it's all done before a council meeting generally, so it's kind of tight, so they try to stack you next week, another commission.
Well, I'm out of town January 14th, but I should be around the 28th in February.
I think sometime in December, they should get me the dates, and then I'll forward them as soon as I get them, I'll send them out to you. And I'll put it on the calendar for you. And then we have future agenda items, but I don't have them yet.
Okay.
At some point.
Okay. So with that, I adjourn the meeting.
At 8:04 a.m.